everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, May 24th, 2015. Happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm guessing that there's going to be no episode of Y&R on Monday, so they left us with quite a lot of cliffhangers, I would say. Is Kelly really dead? Did that happen? I'm shocked. I was literally watching my screen and saying, what? How did that happen? When did that happen? Why did that happen? And I feel completely unable to believe that she's dead. By all appearances, our crazy villainess is I mean, we saw her bloody face, bloody body, but I'm finding it difficult to believe that anybody is really dead in this town. We've had so many deaths over the course of the last 3 to 4 months that I just can't believe any of it. But then you've got the body. I don't know. I'm shocked by that. That to me was kind of the coolest storyline of the week. I mean, they spent 2 episodes building up, Jack, real Jack, and where he was in his brainwashing process. He's slurry and he seems extremely confused and just really docile. It was breaking my heart to watch the man lying there, having been what is that syndrome where you begin to love your kidnappers, whatever that's called. He has it. He's a totally broken man. I'm surprised that he even remembers how to read. She's given him all these books, and I'm thinking, this slurry guy, how can he even put words together anymore? But he seems to have embraced his captivity. In fact, Kelly gave him a series of tests over the course of these couple of episodes where she has set up some kind of video system, and she's videoing Jack on the bed, having loosened up the cuffs and giving him a little bit of more chain to work with, and she's watching him when she's not in the room on a tablet, decide to kind of see what his motivations are. Is he plotting something behind her back? Can she really trust him? Has the brainwashing worked? And to all of the evidence that we were seeing, Jack is completely brainwashed. He's completely accepted. He's completely docile. He has a chance to grab a knife and he doesn't take it. He has a chance to walk right out the door and he doesn't take it. And all of these are amounting just to tests that Kelly's putting him under to see where she is in the stages of her, in quotes, relationship with him. And he passed every single one of her tests, and I'm thinking, is there any chance, is he really brainwashed? Is there any chance that he knows the camera is there? I feel confused about what Jack's actual state of mind at this point in the process is. But Kelly is reassured. She actually embraces him, and she tells him she loves him, and he's passed all of her tests, and she's proud of him, and she cannot wait to just move away, to just change their identities and to go somewhere else and start a new life where no one can recognize them, which, by the way, raises a little bit of red flag to me as to whether or not she is really dead, because she was thinking that. She was thinking, I want to just change our identities and get away. I don't know if that's going to play into it at all. There's so many twists and turns along the way. I don't know what to believe. Even in my own mind, but she's telling him that she feels confident in their relationship, and even going so far as to giving him a chance to back out. I mean, she knows he's a broken man, and she knows that she's broken him, and she's saying to him, look, if you don't really want to go through with this, then you can just leave right now. Almost like Kelly had reached her level of desperation with the whole situation. Almost like Kelly was starting to take a look at herself through this different lens. And for the first time since this whole BS kidnapping thing started, I actually did connect in with Kelly. She starts embracing back Jack on the bed, and she's talking about what she wants out of a relationship, that what she wants is to love freely and to have love given freely back to her, that she doesn't want it to be a kidnapping situation, almost like she hit her breaking point too. And Jack, who by all appearances is completely brainwashed at this point, is telling her, no, I love you, I want to be with you, and they in fact used to start to kiss and embrace, and they presumably have sex. And the very next scene, we're panning in to Jack, he's shirts off, I think, I want to say, and he's his lower half is covered by the blankets. He's sort of waking up out of this post-sex haze, as one does, and he looks over at his right hand. He's got blood on his hand. And at this point, I'm like, what is that? I went back and watched this scene twice. I was shocked. He looks over to where Kelly is in the bed, and she's lying there dead. It went sex, dead. She's got blood coming out of her mouth. I don't know if she had some kind of head injury, or I don't know if the knife had anything to do with it, but lying there dead, her eyes are wide open. I mean, I honestly didn't know if she was in shock, or like did something violent just happen to her. The blood looked a little dried on her mouth. Like I couldn't tell if she was still alive or if that was dead. If her eyes were dead. It was very impactful, that scene, that visual element, because I was shocked to see her eyes so wide open, blood coming out. That was just shocking to me. And by all appearances, I guess she's dead. Jack's sitting there looking at himself, presumably, again, like, what did I just do? And I don't know, I think there's some element of interpretation there. Was Jack plotting this all along, and he knew he was being watched, and as soon as he got the opportunity, I mean, desperate times, desperate measures, I have no doubt that Jack would intentionally kill Kelly to get away. I would. I mean, it's completely justifiable, but, I guess the way I viewed it initially was that he didn't know what he did. He's confused, he's drugged, and he had, is only having vague remembrances of who he used to be in his old life, and Phyllis, and anything that connected him to his past. So I sort of interpreted it as he somehow in the middle of this sexual act or something sort of snapped, had some kind of connection with who he used to be, realized that this was a hostile situation, and somehow was violent with her. Unless, I don't know if there's any chance that Kelly would have actually killed herself. I don't know. I'm really curious to know how all of you read that scene, because I think Jack's intention is gonna speak a lot to where the storyline goes from here. Was it intentional? Did Jack know what he was doing? And if so, what can we expect from his return to Genoa City? So the cop comes in, and the one cop that's on Victor's payroll walks into the little hut and sees Kelly lying there dead, or at least blonde hair and a finger or a hand with a ring on it, sees her dead, calls Victor and tells him all about it. So the news has spread to Victor that Kelly's dead. Not only that, but Jack gone. I just don't know what to make of this. What is Katie McCain's contract status? It's so weird because I kept thinking to myself, even if at the beginning of the week, as Kelly was still brainwashing Jack, I thought to myself, how is Y&R going to fold her back into the mix? The character has been isolated. She's gone off the crazy. She's on the crazy train. How on earth are they ever gonna work her back into being a normal part of the show? It almost seemed like she was on a track right off the show, and I don't know is this the end? Is this the end? Is Kelly really dead? Are we ever going to see her again? Do we know anything about the actress's contract status? Please let me know. We all know Peter Bergman's gonna come back to the show. He's still on. Real Jack is going to return to Genoa City, and if he has any presence of mind about him, he's going to know that it was Victor who initiated all of this. He is going to be enraged beyond belief. I don't know how Victor's going to recover from this, except that he always does. It's going to be really, really hard for Jack and anyone else in Victor's life to accept that Victor was behind all this, because it's so sadistic. It was so cruel, everything that Jack's been through. And they, as Victor's learning that Kelly's dead, Jack is gone, Victor's telling the police, you better find him. You better find him now. I cannot have him coming back into Genoa City and ruining my whole plan. And just as that's going on, we start to see scenes, which we've seen. It's such a cheesy trick, because we've seen this at various points throughout the week and in various points of the storyline, this sort of third-person camera angle where where the camera is some sort of mystery person, and in this particular instance the camera person is looking through the window of the ranch and seeing Victor and zeroing in on Victor, and then later at the event at the athletic club we saw that once again, that this person sort of creeping around behind the scenes sees Victor, and in fact I think it was the cliffhanger for Friday's show. The third-person camera, walks into the room, gets up in Victor's face, and Victor's basically saying, "What are you doing here? You don't belong here." But it seemed I don't think that's Jack. I think we're still seeing some kind of remnants of whoever the killer is, the real killer, because if real Jack walked into the room and there were suddenly two Jacks in the room, it would have been an eruption amongst the crowd. And even in the previews of the next show, it didn't seem like everyone's world was rocked by just discovering that there were two Jacks. So I'm guessing it's not that. I don't know what that whole third-person camera thing is all about, but I do know that we've got to be getting toward the end of this double thing. I mean, now that finally Jack has escaped, there's no doubt in my mind that he's on a one-way ticket back to Genoa City, but the real question is, what's the timing here? Is there, is Jack still on the island? Is he trying to get off of the island, or was he able to get off the island before the police discovered that Kelly was dead? Is he already in Genoa City? And in fact, is there any, I'm thinking, the switcheroo could happen at any time. Jack's gonna get back. He's probably gonna discover what's been going on. He's probably gonna take some action to take out the fake Jack version and make the next switcheroo. But I'm kind of wondering, is there any chance that the switcheroo has already happened? There's no doubt that fake Jack, or aka Pod Jack, as Ashley called him this week, is starting to talk a lot about and focus a lot on what the old Jack would have done. And on the surface, it's maybe him trying to play Victor's game, trying to decide to be a little more like old Jack so that he doesn't blow his cover. He's trying to learn and understand what business decisions the original Jack, old Jack, would have made. And even there was a lovemaking scene between Jack and Phyllis where he's saying, tell me how the old Jack would have made love. And I think it could certainly be viewed as Marco trying to assimilate himself even more into Jack's life. But there's a part of me that wonders if the switch has already happened, that it's actually real Jack that we're seeing back at Jabot and back in everyone's lives, and him asking about things like his old decisions. I wonder if that could somehow be an effort to remember, because no matter what, Jack is coming back into, real Jack will be coming back into his life, and a lot of it's been wiped away, and a lot of it's at least been blurred. So I wonder if he's trying to find ways to reconnect with who he is. It's just a theory, I don't know. But we also have this issue of Marco, and then he's on the FBI's most wanted list, and it seems like Y&R now wants us to believe that he's the killer, and in fact Victor confronted him about it this week, and I don't know, it would make sense if Y&R just wanted to pin this whole murder thing on the, on Marco, on fake Jack, but there's just something that doesn't add up to me about it. I don't really know why he would have a motive to kill these two people. It just doesn't quite make sense. And there's a lot, again, so many more blurred lines in this investigation. The FBI happens to have no photo of what this known drug lord looks like, so they don't know he's a twin for Jack, which sort of answers some questions that I asked last week. They wouldn't happen to have a photo of this huge South American drug lord, so there's a question of whether or not it is even him. It's so weird. The whole Scooby-Doo gang is still trying to figure out who it could be. Paul is dumb in that he told the whole gang that he found that DNA on the envelope. Why would Paul tell them anything? I mean, naturally, they can't keep their mouths shut about anything, and every step in the way, the kids just end up stepping in a clue and tracking it, somewhere else, and then have the nerve to go to Paul and ask him why he hasn't caught the person yet. In fact, I'm wondering if Paul is leaking out information on purpose, knowing that they're going to spread it around, because it doesn't seem like him to keep pushing, or it doesn't seem smart to keep putting that information out there, especially when Kyle goes directly to his dad, in quotes, and tells him about the whole Marco situation, which alerts Marco that maybe the police are onto him. And then there's this also weird element of Kyle and the kids are at the coffee house starting to feel all paranoid about who's out there. The killer's still out there. Who could it be? And we're seeing that third person camera thing again, which turned out to be Tobias, Ashley's old lab assistant, who we know was on Victor's payroll, by the way. But what? So is he supposed to be the killer now? Was that just a little something to throw us off? Are there two third-person camera tricks going on at the same time? Because we know that was him. The third-person camera ended up being Tobias the first time. So does that mean he was the one at the athletic club? I don't know. It's so annoying that Y&R keeps shifting focus. I have a hard time even really following what's going on because they've shifted focus so many different times and in a frustrating sort of way. I don't know that it's even going to end up being Marco now that they've got it pointed at him. It's probably just going to end up being somebody else if these people are even dead. I don't know. The FBI, by the way, had a meeting with Paul early in the week where they said that they don't think the DNA is a match for Marco, for the South American drug lord, which to me seemed shady, like the FBI was hiding something, like maybe they're in on a bigger sting, or I don't know, maybe they've been paid off or something. But it was clear that the FBI guy didn't think or didn't want Paul to think that this Marco person was involved in the murder, didn't really want Paul to dig anymore, and just was kind of hoping that Paul would go away. Kevin's kind of been getting up in the situation and trying to figure out who, you know, what's the real story here. Is there any chance that there was a DNA results switch? Which, yay, another DNA results switch. It was probably Sharon. I mean, you know, she loves doing that. Switching DNA is like a fun Friday night for her. So she probably switched that DNA for Marco. It's just it's so annoying. The only highlight of that whole trail of thought for me was the fact that Christine was involved and was talking to Paul about the FBI and mentioned, hey, have you put in a call to Ronan? I loved that. I love Ronan. I miss Ronan. I mean, honestly, the sex wolf could really make me interested in this storyline again. Y&R, you bring back in Ronan, as you know, and maybe he can have some piece of information from the FBI angle, and boom, I'm back in just like that. Which, by the way, reminds me that I was watching TV this week, and I saw, this is crazy, I saw a commercial for US Cellular. Actually, the commercial aired 2 or 3 times in the time that I was watching TV. It was, I think, US Cellular commercial, and guess who was in it? Alex! I can't think of the actor's name. I want to say it's Ignacio, like Serrato or something like that. But the guy that played Alex, my sex fox, is doing US Cellular commercials. Come on! I've been wondering where this guy is. He disappeared off the Y&R scene forever. He's so hot and sexy. He could have added some spice to this whole crappy murder storyline. I mean, if you can't, you gotta at least inject some sexiness into this to make me care about it. And he's doing US Cellular commercials? Y&R. I mean, I get the feeling that guy's had a lot of work in soap operas. He probably would have enjoyed continuing to work in soap. So Y&R, you need to make a phone call and bring Alex back in. Shoot, give him some work and give me something to look at. Give me some eye candy. Alex or Ronan, get on it. Why can't Y&R keep anybody in that sexy cop role? We had Ronan, we had Alex, and we had Detective Harding. All 3 of those guys had so much potential for character development and for romance development, and then Y&R just throws it off to the side. Get it together, Y&R. Sex sells. Haven't you heard that? So anyway. Back to Fake Jack, aka Marco. There was this weird moment this week between Marco or Fake Jack and Chelsea. What was that all about? I mean, there's so much drama going on down in the lab. Ashley, you know, is on one side, Victoria's on the other side. Chelsea's kind of caught in the middle, just trying to do a good job. And Victoria like slashes her budget and doesn't want to give her any leeway on her new lines. And Chelsea decides to go over Victoria's head and appeal to Jack directly. And Jack is really sensitive with Chelsea. It was almost creepy. If I didn't know that he was completely devoted to Phyllis, it almost seemed like, does he have the hots for Chelsea? And you could tell that Chelsea was a little uncomfortable by it too. But there were a couple things that he said in that scene that made me think, I wonder if these two know each other. Is there any chance that Chelsea has a connection to Marco? Of course, if she did, she would know what he looked like, unless she never saw his face or something. But did you guys get that idea that maybe, I mean, since Chelsea kind of came from doing cons over in South America, I want to say, or somewhere, I don't remember where she was, but is there any chance there's a connection there? I'm not sure. They tried to chalk it up later to Jack saying that he wanted Chelsea to plan this big party, some kind of celebration to commemorate the merger, and he wanted Chelsea to be behind it, which didn't even end up happening anyway. So that makes me think there's something more going on with whatever that connection is going to end up being. But for now, it seems like Ashley and the family and kind of everyone are sort of placated. Jack, at whatever level he is he's playing a good boy, and he's getting everybody to believe that he's really Jack, and he's being nice, and he's stopping having all these fast cars and playing golf, and he's redevoted himself to Jabot. But it's not the only implausible thing about this storyline. There's a lot of implausible things about the storyline, but I keep thinking it's as ridiculous. Like, how do you drop a South American drug lord right into the middle of a high power, high stakes business corporate environment, and he just magically has all of this knowledge, the equivalent of probably an MBA plus 20 years of experience plus family. I mean, like, Ashley's talking to Jack about business this week, and I'm thinking, how does Marco even know that? It's as ridiculous as if you were to drop somebody with an MBA right into the middle of South America and just expect him to know how to survive. It makes no sense, but none of this makes any sense. And that's what makes me think even more. Is there any chance that the switch already happened somehow? How could Marco really know about Cassie, for that matter? I mean, was talking, dedicated all this thing to Cassie. I think a switch might have already happened. Hey, what did you guys think about that speech that Jack gave in honor of Cassie? There's this big event, Jack's the one that threw it, and he gets up in front of everyone and says that he understands how important Cassie was to both families, and he's decided to dedicate or create a pediatric wing at the Genoa City Hospital in her memorial. Today's the anniversary of Cassie's death, and I want to honor that. Hey, what about Dee Dee? You know, I mean, what about your niece? I mean, it's really nice. It's a really nice sentiment, Jack, but you know who else bridged the families was Delia, and maybe that would be a good way to get some inroads with Billy. I don't know. I don't know. But I did enjoy the event. As you know, I love any chance that these people have to get dressed up. My best dressed pick was hands down Lily. Looked amazing. I cannot even believe how beautiful that dress was that she was wearing. It was kind of silver and gray and sparkly all over, and it was very geometric, like very Art Deco, and the earrings to match. I just loved what Lily was wearing, and I freaking loved, even though it was a little breadcrumb, the fight between Lily and Hillary. Lily's there just trying to help plan this party. Devon and Hillary come in. Devon, as attendees, Devon and Hillary really shouldn't have been there at a Newman Jabot event anyway, but whatever, because it created drama and I enjoyed it. Naturally, Lily is just now finding out about the fact that Devon and Hillary are back together, and she's not happy about it. She really thought that Devon was trying to bridge the gap between he and his father, and now he's back together with Hillary, and Lily said something about Hillary's mom, and Hillary just lashed out. And there's something so much better about Hillary since the plane crash, and since she started lying about when she was lying to the guys about how she felt. Like, there's just something that I see more now that is like just more bitchy than it was before, which kind of excites me, because Hillary was, she was a little she was a little bit level before, and I've seen that she can have that rise, and now I want it all the time. So I loved that cat fight. Also, I did enjoy the fact that Neil comes into the party with Gwen on his arm, and Gwen, she's not like the best that I've ever seen, but there's something about Gwen that I like, and I like somebody else being injected into this storyline, and I enjoyed Gwen having her face-to-face time with Devon and Hillary together and telling them both off. I forgot the fact that Devon did take her to bed in all of this, and she deserved her chance to say, "You disgust me." It was really good. Other fashion and little minor social notes from the party. What the hell was Ashley wearing? I ask you, go back and look at her dress. She looked like a golden snake. No thanks. That dress was awful. I am sorry. I don't know who made that decision, but that golden and snake print is what I got from it, and those two things do not need to go together. The more interesting thing was that there was a conversation finally between Ashley and Stitch, where Ashley, I just love her. I love the character. I thought she was really sweet, and she said, I mean, I'm not sure if it's entirely true, because there's a part of me that wonders if Ashley just wants to get Abby and Stitch apart because she's worried about her daughter, but Ashley talked to Stitch and phrased it like, hey, you know, I guess the real reason I'm not comfortable with your relationship with Abby was because I was starting to develop feelings for you. I thought we had, you know, at least a little flirty thing going on. It's been a while, and we had our shower sex, and I never wanted to muddy the waters by bringing sex into the business environment. But, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hurt by the fact that you turned around and you know, and went to Abby immediately after Victoria. So she essentially admits to Stitch that she's had feelings for him, and it rattled Stitch, which was fun. He was there at the party with Abby, and he found a way to get out. He was ready to leave, because Ashley and Stitch are so much more, I think, of a good couple. But I think we're obviously gearing up for that little love triangle, which is weird because I can't imagine a mother actually pursuing a man that pursuing hard a man that her daughter is involved with. But I think the storyline could work if it's Stitch that feels caught in the middle and Ashley doesn't push. But maybe Stitch might find himself really more attracted to Ashley, and maybe having a little more in common with Ashley than with Abby. And then Y&R could put Abby on a boat and send her off to that island where Jack is being held. Other fashion notes. Phyllis looked kind of good. She was sort of rocking the risque a little bit dress. She had sort of a cutout. Of course, there was a lot of cutouts. Dresses that have like a little tiny panel cutout, or sort of a nude illusion, although Phyllis's wasn't a nude illusion, but Victoria's was. I really enjoyed Victoria's red knitted dress with that center panel kind of cut out with that, I don't know if it was nude illusion, but there was some sort of sheer fabric in between, and I liked the red knit. I thought it worked really well for spring, and she looked pretty. So thin though. Does anybody notice Victoria looks really thin, or the actress obviously looks really thin? She was wearing an outfit at the lab a couple scenes prior. It was a black outfit, and it had a lower neckline, and I just like her neck bones, like her chest bones seem like they're protruding. I don't know, boy, she's a little too thin, but she looked, you know, beautiful in that dress. I loved the moment that Nick walked in and decided to make his big announcement to his family that Sage is pregnant. I loved that Victoria was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's your baby? Yeah, you might want to have a DNA test." Victor was shocked, but actually I think Nikki's reaction was my favorite, because you could tell she was like, "What?" Like, you know, it was genuinely, truly shocking to Nikki. And she wants to be supportive of her son, but I completely relished the moment where Nikki said something like, or Nick said something about, no, Phyllis said, "Hey, I'm not the one that's so insecure with with somebody else having Nick's child, that was Sharon, and Nikki said something like, "Oh, to be a fly on the wall when Sharon finds out." It really set the tone of where Nikki and Sharon's relationship is now, and Nick said, "Well, she actually already knows, her." And then Jack, for some reason, invited Sharon and Dylan to the party. Again, like, I mean, sometimes I forget that Jack used to be married to Sharon, but I don't know. It's weird that he would invite them. Sharon shows up at the party with, you know, on Dylan's arm, and Nikki is kind of like, I don't know about this, you know, this little relationship. She has a private conversation with Dylan and says, "Yeah, it was really nice of you to comfort Sharon, and you believed in her, and that's all well and good, but you could leave now. You could be done with Sharon now." And Dylan has to tell her that that it's not just a friendship at this point, that he's involved further with Sharon, which I think blew Nikki's head off. It just gives her another reason to drink. And in fact, we saw a preview for the next show, which apparently somebody has, well, Nikki's been, you know, she slugged back a champagne at the party, and somebody that was a guest at the party has gotten in a car wreck. So possibly, I'm assuming that Nikki just drank and drive after finding out that that Dylan is dating Sharon. Any reason to drink, Nikki's gonna take it. But I'm sure she's, you know, it's a special problem. I'm sure she's not happy to know that another son is involved now romantically with Sharon. So Nikki is completely drinking again. Normally there's nothing that I like about seeing her drinking, but I will admit there were a couple of good things that came out of it. First was the morning after one of her binges, and just before the event, she came downstairs and it was like Y&R's attempt to have her look dressed down. They had her hair up in this really high ponytail, and she just looked really kind of rich lady casual. And there was something about it that looked really appealing. I love Nikki's hair right now. She just looks really good right now. And I say I did appreciate her having zinger after zinger at Victor. I don't like her drinking by any means. It's so overplayed. It feels like it's always a cycle, which is the truth of alcoholism. I just get tired of watching it. But you know, I did enjoy the fact that she is really zeroing in on Victor as the source of her pain, and she's been letting him have it. Again, not that I think that it's all Victor's fault, every single thing that's wrong with her life, but I loved when she was having a meal with Neil. Victor walks in and she asked, like, what's going on? And she said, well, I'll tell you what's going on. Every time I see your face, I want to take a drink. It was an entertaining moment to me. Not that I want that for Nikki, but then she does take a drink. In fact, she gets herself a hotel room, she goes upstairs, and she starts throwing them back. And Neil is trying to be there for her now, and being her sounding board. And it's clear that Nikki has decided that Victor really is the focus. Victor really is the reason that she's doing this. He's pushed her off the wagon by coercing her or into signing the contract that was not really legal. And she had this great line where she's talking to Neil, and she says, you know, Victor's the boss, and we're all on his payroll in one way or another, aren't we? And I thought that was just such a great line because it did sum it up. It summed up, you know, the contract situation with Nikki and with Neil. And I do again appreciate that all of a sudden Neil is being the strong one. I do appreciate that Neil is being so supportive, but I haven't forgotten that Neil also lied to her about the contract validity. Neil knows damn well that the contract is a forgery, and he kind of sat there and allowed Nikki to feel, as they were trying to talk Nikki into signing it, Neil sat there right alongside Victor and coerced her into doing it, made her feel comfortable into doing it. It wasn't just Victor. Nikki signed that contract because she trusted Victor and Neil. She trusted that they were telling her the truth, and they were lying. So I don't entirely think that it's all Victor. Nevertheless, Victor shows up in her hotel room. It was a really awkward moment between Victor and Neil. Which, by the way, how many times a week, now that Victor and Neil are working together, how many times a week is Neil gonna go, Victor, with all due respect? You just watch it. You start counting. That's one of Neil's lines when dealing with Victor. Victor, with all due respect, da 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 da. And this time it was, hey, totally not like having sex with your wife or anything. I know we're upstairs in this hotel room together, and it's not like we were drinking and doing it or anything like that. With all due respect, Victor, that's not the situation. It was very awkward, but Neil ends up leaving. Victor and Nikki are alone in this hotel room, and Nikki has this like violent breakdown. I mean, she says, Victor realizes that Nikki is drunk, and she says, you want to know why I'm drinking? I'm drinking because of you. She starts picking up all of the empty bottles of liquor that she has drank, and she starts tossing them at the mantle, like right over Victor's head. I drank this one because of you, and I drank this one because of you. And they're just, these bottles are smashing all around Victor while he's just sitting there, like arms folded, sitting back on the little couch, like, okay, this is happening right now. I do feel bad for Nikki because Victor is completely dismissive of her. And I think that it got summed up really well in that scene. She's throwing bottles, she's having a temper tantrum, and he's just sitting there. And he's, he just is like, okay, well, you're gonna need to get some help. I mean, it didn't feel like he never really listens to her. He sees that she's having a fit, and then he disconnects and just goes, okay, how am I gonna fix this? Gotta send my wife to rehab. Yay, I get to deal with this again. It wasn't like a, hey, I want to understand truly why you're doing this to yourself. Victor never really listens. He doesn't really get it, and in fact, he says something to her right before, she tells him to leave, and he does, but right before he left, he said, I don't know how we got here. I don't know why you're so unhappy with your life. I've given you everything that you could possibly want. And I get Victor's side of that. I don't want to make it seem like I don't kind of understand where Victor's coming from. Nikki's life ain't so freaking bad, but at the same time, he doesn't listen to her. He thinks that the riches and the luxury and the lifestyle that he's provided for her is love. And he even said that, I provided you with this. Well, and she just goes, that's not the point. And it's not the point. It's that there's no intimacy with Victor. There's no realness with Victor. Nikki is 100% responsible for her actions. She's chosen it every step along the way to go along with what Victor's wanted. She's chosen it every step along the way to go back to him, to make excuses for him. She's the architect of her own life, and she is at this point funneling all of the attention for everything that's wrong in her life on Victor, and it is wrong. But at the same time, Nikki and Victor's relationship is not a healthy relationship, and if I'm honest with myself, I suppose if we're honest with ourselves, it rarely ever has been. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not feeling Dylan and Sharon as much as I should be, as much as I want to be. It bothers me. It just does bother me that Dylan broke off his engagement with Avery and then slept with Sharon the next day. That doesn't seem like the right thing to do to me. I want to like Dylan and Sharon. I think they're a natural couple, but there's almost something that's too much about it, and I'm a little shocked with myself because I want to like them. Sharon and Dylan are now totally in a relationship. And by the way, I mean, it's not like Nick and Sage aren't moving fast too. It's just I feel like Dylan and Sharon had real potential, and it just got skipped over, and I don't feel like I got a chance to really enjoy it. But the morning after they had sex, and again, how can Dylan, how do we know that his feelings are really real when he went from being engaged to Avery and committed to Avery to having sex with Sharon, and now he's just in a relationship with Sharon now? That doesn't seem like, it almost seems like rebound. It doesn't seem healthy to me, and I know it's a soap and everything, but Y&R could have taken me through the process of him getting over Avery and more slowly finding his way to Sharon, because they're two characters that have a lot in common, yet I feel they're almost being forced together too soon. The morning after they slept together, Sharon wakes up and Dylan's not in her bed. She goes downstairs looking for him, and of course, oh no, he's not gone. He's in the kitchen making her coffee. And then later, you know, he decides he wants to pamper her, so he gives her a massage. It's too much. It's just too much. And he actually had a conversation with Sharon where he was trying to be honest about where he is, and he said, you know, I have mental problems too, or I have emotional problems too, and I see a therapist at the VA, and I worry about what my intentions are with this relationship. The reason his relationship with Avery part of the reason his relationship with Avery broke up was because he felt the need to fight something, to save something, and now he's just doing the same thing with Sharon, and he admitted it. He said they even have a name for this. It's called White Knight Syndrome, and I don't want to do that with you, and I don't want Dylan to do that with Sharon. I think Sharon deserves someone who's totally and wholly committed to her, and it's not that they couldn't get there eventually. Again, it's a relationship that makes sense. Seeing Sharon back at Crimson Lights with Dylan behind the counter, I mean, Sharon's the one that started that coffee house with Nick, and now she's there with Dylan, and Dylan is someone who can identify with her, who has a lot in common with her, but it's like, it just feels like Y&R's cramming it together. I don't know. I think that he could be so good for her. And in fact, like, this week was the anniversary of Cassie's death. I don't know. Y&R, you know, they really do zero in on Cassie. And I don't know why they didn't show Mariah this week throughout that. It would have been nice to see her injected in there. But they don't really do the same thing for Delia. We haven't heard a whole lot about Delia. We don't even have justice for her murder. Y&R just forgets that or doesn't focus on that. But this week, it's the anniversary of Cassie's death, and Sharon is being very flighty, and Dylan notices, thinks maybe something's wrong with her, and he ends up following her to the gravesite, and that's how he discovers that that's what today is. And again, I just think that he's someone, it makes sense for him to be there for her, and he admits later that he did follow her there and was just concerned about her, but it's almost clingy. It's almost too much, Y&R, and it's not that the characters can't work. I think it's that Y&R is just not hitting it right with the build of this relationship. It's just me. Maybe it's just me, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are like totally 100% on board with Dylan and Sharon, and I want to be on that train too, and I feel cheated a little bit. I don't know why. And then there's the whole element of, damn, I'm sitting there, I'm watching Nick go to Cassie's gravesite, and he's taking her flowers, and he's talking to her. He called her Squirt. I cried. And then Sharon comes up, and Nick and Sharon, over their daughter's grave, have this bonding moment where I think Nick said something to the effect of, you know, this is ours. I may have children with other women, you know, you're moving on with your life, but Cassie is ours. She's our child. We will be the ones who understand. We will be the ones who mourn her every birthday, every, you know, anniversary of her death. And it seemed like such a good bonding moment for Nick and Sharon, and it made me miss Nick and Sharon. You know what I think part of it is? I think part of it is that I don't want Sharon to need to be saved. I don't want Sharon in a relationship because the guy is the White Knight. I want to see I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face, but I'm never going to get it. I want to see a strong Sharon. I want to see a Sharon who knows what she's doing, knows who she is, and more often than not, we just see victimized Sharon who needs somebody else to save her, and that's just not how I want a relationship for her to start. I like Sharon, and I want something good for her. I did laugh this week. Nick and Sage are realizing that Sage is pregnant and trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and Sage was very insistent that she did not want Sharon to know because she thinks Sharon is dangerous. It's kind of funny because, I mean, really? What do you think Sharon's gonna do? But then again, in the context of all of the things Sharon's done, I suppose it's not quite so unbelievable. But eventually Sharon finds out that Sage is pregnant, and there's just this so weird moment where Sharon kind of dismisses herself from whatever the conversation was what she was having, and she follows Sage. She tracks Sage down in her hotel room to talk to her about the fact that she's pregnant with Nick's baby, and in fact she like throws her arms around Sage and says, "I'm so happy for you." What? It was creepy. It was straight up creepy, and I don't believe it. That's the thing, I don't believe it, and I do sort of wonder if there's any chance that everything that's going on now, Nick and Sage, Dylan and Sharon, is kind of a vehicle to bring Nick and Sharon back together, and if so, maybe that's okay with me. It's just, there's no way that Sharon's 100% okay with it. I think maybe she was overcompensating in that moment so that nobody thinks she's gonna go and switch DNA results or push Sage down a flight of stairs. But I want to get a key on her frame of mind, and especially after that graveside moment that they had, I just wonder if Sharon's really okay with both of them moving on. And likewise, it feels sometimes Dylan's defense of Sharon is so adamant, and I know it's genuine and coming from a good place, but sometimes it's kind of annoying. Like this week, I don't know why I feel this way, but this week, Dylan, as Sharon was with Sage, Dylan and Nick were having a moment together, and Dylan said something to Nick like, "What'd you do to her, Nick?" And Dylan's always kind of had that position with Nick, and a lot of times it's true. I mean, Nick tried to take Sharon's child away from her, but Dylan was kind of like, "What'd you do to her this time, Nick?" And Nick he's just like, "Yeah, so you're sleeping with her, right?" I mean, like Nick just called it, like he got it. Nick's been there. Nick's done that. Nick has both been Sharon's defender and her enemy. Let's not forget that Nick spent a whole lot of years in that white knight role trying to rescue Sharon and make her life better, and see how that worked out for him. I mean, I don't know, I see everybody's perspective. It's kind of my curse. But I did enjoy that little zinger, like, "So you're sleeping with her." Nick just kind of guessed, like, this is Sharon's pattern, this is the pattern. And if that's the case, maybe this is the pattern of Nick and Sharon getting back together. I don't know. And I think it sucks that Y&R would waste the opportunity to have Sharon and Dylan build a real lasting relationship, because I think that could be really moving and really meaningful, and sometimes when I look at them together I feel it, and I want to feel it more than I do. Also, Adam and Chelsea over here, Nick and Sage talking about the fact that she's pregnant, so much for keeping it a secret. Who just goes around telling everybody that they're pregnant when you just took a pregnancy test? So what are you, like 6 weeks, you know, at the most pregnant? I mean, why would you go around telling everybody? It's not even smart, and yet they are. But more importantly, Adam learns that Sage is pregnant, and the little light went off in his brain, of course. And it's, you know, thinking back on it, it's kind of surprising that Nick never even asked Sage if there was a possibility that she could have been pregnant with Gabe's child. They were married. Why wouldn't Nick say to Sage, hey, I know, it's like, not to offend you or anything, but you were married to Gabe. Did you guys sleep together even once? Because if you slept with somebody else even once, then it might not be my child. And Nick didn't even ask that. It rang with Adam immediately, and Adam had no problem getting right up in Sage's face immediately and saying, yeah, it only takes one time, and I want a paternity test. Which, who could blame him? And it's like Sage is just off in la la land, completely assuming that Nick is the father, planning for Nick being the father because it's everything she's ever wanted, and that one little indiscretion with Gabe/Adam does not count. She's just in her own world. It's how she wants it to be. She wants it to be Nick's child, therefore it's going to be Nick's child. But Sage don't know Adam if she thinks that he's just gonna let this whole thing go. Really good confrontation this week between Billy and Adam. Billy is there trying to still be a father figure for Connor, which I appreciate, because that was one thing in the breakup that I felt got swept under the rug. I appreciate that Billy still has a loyalty toward Connor, but what he doesn't know is Connor's father is right across the hall in Gabe, and so it's created some extra tension. I think the Connor's existence, Adam being Connor's father, and I think the possibility of a new Newman child in Sage is maybe ramping up the rivalry a little bit more. But there's a scene inside Chelsea's apartment where Billy and Adam are going at it yet again, and they started addressing Delia, started talking about Delia, and Adam it was so dumb. He started defending Adam. I mean, I can't believe nobody's guessed this by now or has really started digging into Gabe's past, because Gabe was telling Billy things about Delia's death and defending Adam about it that Gabe could not have known. How could this guy know so much about this? And, at the end of the day, it still really bothers me that Y&R never addressed this. Either Adam ran over Delia. It's not the fact that, it is not the incident. Delia's death was an accident. There's no question in my mind about that. But Adam covered it up. He lied about it for months, and then he went to this extreme length to hide his identity and come back into town and reclaim his life, and it's wrong. If Y&R, if Adam killed Delia and you're going to stick to that, then Adam needs to pay. But if he didn't, and it was someone else driving that night, then we need to get some closure on that. Is it just me? It bothers me that that's just never been addressed, and as much as I'm completely enjoying the Adam and Chelsea romance, it's got to come out sooner or later. I mean, Gabriel is just like acting like he knows Adam, like he knows his life, like he knows what happened, and how is Billy not going to be the one to guess? Billy even goes, after this argument, he goes back to Ashley and he even remarks to her that Gabriel is like, somehow like this avenging angel sent down by Adam to continue to torture me, and I thought that was such a good way to put it. But when is his identity going to be revealed? When? You tell me. It's been since November that the recast has happened. So February sweeps have passed, May sweeps are passing us by. Is it going to be a full year before we find out that this is really Adam? I don't know. My best guess is that the paternity is going to be what forces Adam to come forward. I'm assuming that there's going to be some kind of DNA test that will show that Sage's baby is a Newman, and then Adam's going to have to explain, Gabriel's going to have to explain why he thinks this child is his, and then maybe he'll have to dramatically reveal, because I am Adam Newman. Dun dun dun! I I should have mentioned this before when I was talking about Dylan and Sharon, but Phyllis pays a special trip up to the rehab facility in Chicago to see how Avery is doing, and more importantly, to call Joe out, which I really appreciated, surprisingly. I feel bad for Joe. He's obviously in a tough situation, and he has a lot ahead of him, but Phyllis really did nail him into the wall and say, I think you're taking advantage of my sister, and I think you should stop. And I mean, it makes sense. Avery revealed that her relationship with Dylan is now down the drain, and it is not in small part because of Joe. So I appreciated Phyllis getting up in there, and I have to say, I think Gina Tognoni was really good in that scene. She is not the over-the-top Michelle Stafford Phyllis, but I think she's damn good, and I think she's a more realistic interpretation of the character. I have said it many times before, I actually enjoy this Phyllis, although I think there's more they could be doing with her. I think I enjoy this version of Phyllis more than I liked Michelle Stafford at the end. So it was really good for me, and I think Phyllis's argument to Joe and to Avery was half right. Joe is to blame for what happened in that relationship, but Avery is to blame too. Dylan is to blame. Sharon is to blame. There's enough blame to go around. It just is what it is. Can Joe please just take his shirt off now? It's so hard, so very hard to watch what is happening to the Baldwin family. Fenn came home from college this week and learned that his parents are separated, and there was a big confrontation in Michael's hotel room suite where Fenn's trying to get to the bottom of what his dad is feeling, and Fenn did hit the nail on the head a couple of times, that he understands what his dad must be going through as far as being the man in the family, being a man to his wife, and I thought that was sort of an important point to make. But after Fenn left, there was another heart-wrenching scene between Michael and Lauren where he serves her with divorce papers, and it was so very hard to watch because you know that it's got to be killing him. You know that it's got to be turning him inside out and going against everything that he actually feels. What we know about Michael is that he loves Lauren more than anything. Even in that moment with the hooker, he was talking about what he wanted, which was his wife. What he wants more than anything is his old life, but yet he's being forced, or he's forcing himself into acting like he doesn't love Lauren and pushing her away and giving her these divorce papers, which she refuses to sign. And I was so glad that she didn't just give up and be tired of him and just decide to abandon him. And it kind of occurred to me in that scene that this is all, I think, to Michael, whether conscious or not, it kind of seems like it's one big test or something. Like, if Lauren's cheated on him before, and if she's gonna leave him, cheat on him again, then Michael wants to be in a position where he can control it, where he can strike first, so that he's not left vulnerable, dealing with this cancer, and then finding out that his wife is abandoning him. It's just, I connected in with him a little bit more in that scene. I understood it a little bit better. Christian LeBlanc is so good. He really is so good. After Lauren refuses to sign the papers, she leaves the room, and there's just this heart-wrenching moment where Michael is crying over the divorce papers, and I really think that so much of this is not about the cancer. I think that Y&R's intention here is to dig us into the characters. I wish they were doing it a little bit more, but there are some, I think, important and real moments that have come out of this. I mean, probably one of the most striking moments of the week was Michael crying over those divorce papers as Lauren is standing out in the hall devastated, and we can see that Michael is crying so hard, and he's covering his mouth so that no one, including Lauren, can hear. Okay, everybody. Well, It's Memorial Day. I'm assuming that there's not going to be an episode, but there could be a poolside episode, I suppose, or we could get some more mingling at the athletic club. But hopefully I'm giving you a little bit extra content so that you can make up for any absence of storyline. But what I really wanted was to wrap up today's Y&R Chat by letting you guys know that this week is the 7-year Y&R Chativersary. I have been Y&R chatting for 7 years. And I think maybe some people don't realize that there are folks out there who have been watching Y&R Chat videos since 2008. And yet there are a lot of people who are just picking up the Y&R Chat, for the first time, first couple months, maybe even first couple of years. But what you might not know is that there's 7 years of Y&R Chat to still go back and consume. So if it's Memorial Day and if there's not an episode, then you can always kick back into an old Y&R Chat. May 26, 2008, I sat down and I made my first Y&R Chat video. It was horrible. I cringed to watch them, and it's difficult for me to tell you to go back and watch them, but I gotta somehow be at peace with it. It was not good lighting. It was not flattering. It was like 90 pounds ago. I must have been 28 when I started. And I think that the camera was always close up in my face, and I didn't know what I was doing. And the other thing is it started out on YouTube, and at the time YouTube had a 10-minute time limit on the videos, so I was forced to put things in chunks, in parts, which was really hard to do because I can sit here to really kind of dig into it. It takes some time to talk about 5 hours worth of material every single week, and I was cramming it into these 10-minute segments. I had started out doing it on Wednesdays and Sundays, but the Wednesdays kind of fell away quickly because it seemed like as soon as I talked about it, everything changed. So I switched it over to just Sundays. But in the early videos where there's 2 or 3 parts, I was just cramming everything in. I was talking really fast, and it's a little bit hard for me to go back and watch those. I truly don't. But they're there for you if you ever are just kind of bored and want to dip back into whatever was going on in Y&R and our chats over the past 7 years. When YouTube eventually extended the ability to upload video lengths, they allowed, I think my account was one of the first that got approved for unlimited lengths of the videos, I think because it's all original content. I immediately started just doing longer videos. I was so happy just to be able to sit down and actually talk and let it come out and not have to cram it in. And it was, Y&R Chat started being a little closer to an hour in length. And then it was December of 2010, I decided to start the podcast. So basically what I do is record the video and the audio at the same time, and the video goes up onto YouTube and the audio goes up onto iTunes, which I love podcasts. I never watch videos. If I ever do anything, it's listen to a podcast. So that was kind of a natural transition for me, and being able to have the longer length really helped. In the very beginning, I would record the video and the podcast at the same time, but Anna actually called into my voicemail a couple weeks ago and reminded me that I used to record an alternate ending for the podcast, which the reason I did it was because it seemed like there were 2 different audiences. Like, people who are watching the video on YouTube can just leave comments on YouTube, but people who are listening to the podcast, I set up a voicemail number for those people to call into, because if you're listening to the podcast, it's more, I think, in the podcast community, more normal for podcasters to have a phone number to get feedback. So I set up that phone number, and I recorded 2 alternate endings because I wanted to be able to tell the video people that this is where you can leave your comments, and then tell the podcast people that this is where you can leave your voice comments. But then I started realizing that a lot of the times I was just saying a lot of the same stuff. I can't even count the number of times where I would say something completely brilliant on the podcast ending, and then it would get left out of the video, or vice versa, and it started ticking me off, like, and then I started, sometimes there were just little housekeeping things or things that I wanted to include in the end that I was finding myself saying it twice, and I'm like, that's just not genuine. So I kind of got rid of the alternate ending for the podcast, and I started just bringing them all together, and that's kind of where we are today. You can always call into the voicemail at 309-588-4569. Videos, podcasters, anybody, anywhere you are, you can call the voicemail. You can go onto YouTube, and I'm sure that a lot of the people who listen to the podcast don't necessarily know maybe that there's a video component, and certainly since the podcast goes back to 2010, maybe people who listen to that don't know that the videos go back to 2008. So feel free to go to YouTube, watch the videos, leave a comment there. I think it wasn't probably until 2011, maybe 2010, that I got a YRChat.com up and running. It's been through a couple different revisions. I just kind of needed a place to centralize everything, but you can leave comments there, and from there you can go to Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And it's really it's surprising to me to think about 7 years, because at this point it's something that I just do. It's really just part of my routine. Y&R Chat is a part of my routine in my life in the same way that Y&R is, and I don't go out of my way to promote it, to be honest with you. I think it's so wonderful to see that people discover it, but I don't promote it. I don't do a single thing. I am not affiliated with Y&R. I'm not a promoter of Y&R, and I'm not someone who is just trying to get recognized by Y&R. I just need to talk. I need to talk about my show, and I kind of feel like the cool people will find me, and that's really been the case. So I also want to take a moment to just say thank you so much to all of you out there who have found Y&R Chat and have enjoyed it, and special thanks to you guys who've been watching since the beginning, because I know that you're there. I know, and in fact, give me a shout out this week if you've been watching Y&R Chat since 2008, 2009. Give me a shout out this week if you're newly into it, because it's always interesting to know that. And not only do you guys influence how I interpret the storylines, but you influence how I have kind of crafted what Y&R Chat is. My friend Gary was the first person to really ever call into that voicemail number, and so it's just that I could not even tell you how much I enjoyed actually hearing voicemails coming in through that number and hearing your voices, and it gave me a sense of what this community actually is. And so I started, that kind of helped prompt me to give the voicemail out every single week in both the podcast and the video, because it means something to me to hear your voices on a weekly basis. It means something to me to see your comments on a weekly basis, and to know that you guys are so cool and so nice to me, and it's shocking to see. It's shocking to me still to think about how far this has all come, and I am intending to continue to do it. 7 years down, and I hope that I still am able to keep going for as long as Y&R is here. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Y&R Chat continues to evolve. I don't know what my life will be like in the next decade. I don't know how if it will change, if media will change, and maybe there's a new medium that people want to to listen to it in. But I certainly intend to keep going, and I really appreciate all of you who have jumped onto this journey with me, with the show, not just since 2007, but all of you that have jumped on to listening to Y&R Chat, watching Y&R Chat over the years. It really does mean a lot to me, and you really do influence me, and I'm hoping there'll be a lot more. So hey, lucky seven years down, and hopefully many more to go. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.